Netflix just released a documentary on the Manosphere, and what it actually does really well is show you what this content looks like in real time, how it's presented, how it spreads, and just how many people are engaging with it. And no matter what you think about it, whether you agree with it, you disagree with it, or you feel somewhere in the middle, there's something much deeper happening underneath it that most people are missing. Because your brain doesn't just watch this type of content, it learns from it. And whether you realize it or not, it is shaping you. This video is brought to you by my HarperCollins published book, Mind Over Explicit Matter. If you're ready to quit porn and reclaim your life mentally and physically, go over to drtrishleigh.com/book. When you watch the documentary, you start to notice the same things repeating over and over again. Success, money, status, discipline, fitness. And underneath all of it is desirability. Not just from women, but from men as well. Women want them. Men want to be them. And you see this across creators, whether it's Andrew Tate or broader hustle culture on TikTok. It's different voices, but it's the same underlying pattern. Become someone with access, influence, and options. The messaging is very simple. Do this, get that. Clear inputs, clear outcomes. But here's what's important. This content doesn't spread because people agree with it. It spreads because people react to it. Some people are drawn to it, some push against it, and some argue about it. But from the brain's perspective, that distinction doesn't exist. The brain doesn't track agreement, it tracks intensity. And the stronger the response, the deeper it wires it in. So when I watch something like this, what I'm actually paying attention to isn't just the message. It's the state that it puts the brain into. Because before dopamine, there's activation. This kind of content shifts the brain into a heightened state, more alert, more focused, more driven. And that can feel like clarity. And it can feel like things suddenly make sense, like you know exactly what to do next. But that's not regulation, that's activation. And activation isn't stable. So what happens is the brain starts looking for ways to recreate that state again and again and again. And that's where dopamine comes in. Because dopamine isn't about pleasure, it's about pursuit. It's how the brain decides what matters, what to chase, and what is worth your effort. And if you stop at success and performance, you're still only looking at the surface, because underneath that, there's a second layer organizing the signal. A significant portion of this content is structured around sexual signaling and access. Not just what is said, but in what is repeatedly shown and reinforced. Multiple partners, monetization tied to platforms like OnlyFans, environments built around constant availability and variation. So now the brain isn't just processing ambition. It's being exposed to high-frequency sexual cues that are directly linked to status. And that matters because those cues are processed through the same systems shaped by porn. Novelty, variation, and rapid reward prediction. So now you have two converging inputs, one defining what is worth pursuit and the other training how reward should feel. And when those two things align, the brain doesn't just interpret it, it starts organizing around it. Not as an idea, but as a pattern. And repeated exposure to what that pattern is what turns influence into conditioning. And when that pattern becomes baseline, you're not just changing behavior, you're changing how the brain functions. Repeated exposure to high novelty, high intensity stimuli alters the activity in the brain's reward circuitry, particularly those dopaminergic pathways. Over time, the brain raises its threshold for stimulation, which means ordinary experiences produce less activation. Effort-based rewards feel less compelling, and motivation becomes less stable. At the same time, prefrontal regulation, the system responsible for focus, planning, and impulse control, becomes less consistent. Attention starts to fragment, follow-through weakens, and the brain becomes more sensitive to high salience inputs like intensity, novelty, and immediacy. And when you bring that into your relationship and intimacy, you've got a mismatch, my friend, because real connection is slower, it's less intense, and it depends on regulation, not stimulation. So the issue isn't just behavior, it's that the brain has adapted to an entirely different reward environment. This is exactly who I work with. Men whose brains are highly stimulated but not fully regulated. Men who are pursuing results but struggling with consistency, focus, and real connection. And to be clear, the goal here isn't to remove ambition, it's to regulate the system. It's to restore the brain to a state where motivation is stable, focus is sustained, and connection is actually possible. Because real success in work, in your relationships, and especially in sexuality, comes from regulation, not from constant stimulation. And with neuroregulation tools like neurofeedback, we can actually measure the patterns directly. We can train the brain to reduce overstimulation, rebalance reward sensitivity, and restore functional regulation, because the same brain that adapted to this environment can be retrained. So this isn't about whether you should or shouldn't watch the documentary. Watch it, understand it, but also understand what's happening underneath it in reality. This is about shining a neuroscience light on the content itself, because your brain doesn't just watch this content, it learns from it. And once you really understand that, you can start to take control of what it learns. Okay, control your brain or it will control you, my friend. Until next time.